We are so excited that you've joined us today. You're about to hear a message from our pastor, Mike McFadder from the Crossing Worship Center. Please make sure you are following us on YouTube and Facebook. We pray that this message draws you closer to the Lord and encourages you.
So we're going to go to 2 Timothy chapter number 4. Just going to share some thoughts with you that God shared with me and stirred my heart about. It really stirred me to understand a little bit deeper. So that's what I do here on Thursday nights. This is called War Zone because I want to help you fight the good fight of faith. I want to help you be overcomers. When's the last time you heard that word? Everything my wife said, I want to go. We got to be overcomers. It's coming. What are you going to do when the hurricane starts coming? Watch them. Watch them. Freak out. Go to the store. Grab all the plywood. Buy all the water. Get the batteries. And wait. That's America. That's what we do when we're under trouble. And what sadly is a lot of what happens in the church. If Jesus said, I'm coming back Sunday. Oh, my God. I just got to do this. I mean, that's the way we have gotten ourselves. If you will make this a daily walk, just make it something you do every day. Don't make it something you try to figure out when you're in trouble. That's not when you're going to win this battle. You have to change your thinking if you're going to change this human being. As a man thinketh, he is. You cannot put me anywhere I don't first consider it in my mind. Spiritually, there is nothing to motivate you in the natural. Absolutely nothing. He will not physically manifest himself to encourage you tomorrow. He's not coming down in the house and telling you it's okay, baby. Get your book out. Put your faith to action. Live this life. This great man, Paul. Every time I get to say this, I want to say it because this man, Paul, writes a book and names it Timothy. I don't know of any author that did that. But this man's not normal because he has seen something that has created in him a perception of life that is taking him to great spiritual things. He wrote 1/3, they say, of the Bible. Now look what he says. Now he's at the end of his life. What will this man say? This great warrior of God, I'll call him that. He said, for I am already being poured out as a drink offering. Now, drink offering was, what that meant is this. If I take this bottle of water and I pour it out, you're not going to get it back. You may fill it up again, but you're going to go to the faucet to do it. In other words, what he's saying is I'm about to be poured out. I'm about to be, my time here's over. This is not just another sacrifice. My life is at the departure time. My life's at the departure time. Next verse. Here's what he said. Looking at a young man. I fought a good fight. I just want to tell you, just kind of share with what happens in a pastor's life or a man that's trying to serve God. This is the scripture laying there with my face on the altar. This man, Paul, said, I fought a good fight. He said, I have finished my race. I finished it. Hard to get people to finish things these days. Paul said it's very important that you finish. It's not that you started. That's wonderful. We praise with you. We celebrate with you. We baptized you. We said go get them. But I'm talking about saints of God. I'm talking about people been baptized 30 years ago. I'm talking about people that know what it means to get up every morning and have to put one foot in front of the other. I know what I'm talking about. And I know that you know this morning or tonight what I'm talking about. And he said, I have fought a good fight, not just a fight, but I said, I've finished my race and I've kept my faith. Now, he said, finally, There's laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge. You're going to all stand before God. I'm telling you, church, saved or lost, you're going to stand in front of Jesus. And I don't know what you're going to say, but I don't think it's what we say today. I don't know what you could say to him when he is the answer. I am the way, the truth, and the life. What are we going to say when we stand in front of Jesus? I was just whatever. And he's just going to go, really? Paul said, now that I've finished, there's a crown for me of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give me on that day. Not till then. Until then, crown seekers, this world of easy Christianity that says you don't owe God nothing and you don't have to do anything and you don't have to be anything. You can just wear your halo every week to church. It's easy. I'm telling you. That's what they tell me to preach. That's what a lot of churches are building it on. Fun times. It's fun. Just not what Paul told Timothy. Just said I had to fight to do it. And I finished it, and now there's a righteousness crown for me. But until that day, there's been nothing but crosses. Jesus said, take up your cross and follow me every day. Make sure you don't forget your cross. Lindsay did fantastic here last week telling the ladies to put the armor of God on. I was sitting back there, and one thing I heard that in my spirit that the Lord said when she said, wherever you're struggling, check your armor there. Sometimes you may get up and feel like you're not saved. Check your helmet of salvation. I said, that's good. When I'm not feeling righteous, check your breastplate. If you don't feel like you've got truth and you're believing the lies of hell, check your loins, she said. Don't get up and just abstractly live. Where are you battling this morning? Focus on that. Pick up on what the devil's trying to do. He said, and not me only, but also all, that's you and me, who love his appearing. Now, you don't get up in the morning after being saved and decide that you're going to be fully committed to Jesus to the point that you will give your life for him. That's not where Christian life starts. The Christian life starts about the place where we're needing freedom from our bondages. We're so drunk and drugged and broken and empty and totally destitute. That's typically how we get saved. We need someone to come help us get out of our trouble. How many of you have ever drug a loved one to the altar? Yeah, because you know, if you don't go see Jesus, you're just wasting your time. How many New Years have passed with a new leaf turnover? Only to get a few months into it, and that didn't work either, did it? That's why you had to be saved, and we start out there. We wanted to miss the lake of fire called hell. And all of a sudden, Romans 12, verse number 3, there's a shift, an absolute shift in life. A miracle begins to start taking place. A relationship begins. Forgiveness is realized. Mercy and grace is accepted and acknowledged. And love becomes the new great miracle of the day. You're no longer doing what you do because you miss hell. You're actually falling in love with Jesus. That's what's missing. You want to know what's missing in 90% of the relationships that people have struggling to be who they're supposed to be? They just don't understand that they're supposed to have a relationship with Jesus that means more than anything in this world. But we quit telling them that, so the generation grows up not believing that there's anything to the relationship. So you and I, the warriors, the fighters, the people that keep going, the ones that have to continue on, that shift happens. And God says it like this. The man writes it again, Romans, same author. For I say that through the grace given to me to everyone who is among you. I'm talking to everybody, he said. Not to think of himself more highly than he ought, but to think soberly as God has dealt to each one. Listen, this is the key to what you're hearing tonight. Listen to me. He has given you a measure of faith. Are you saved? In your salvation, God gave you a measure of faith. That's what it took to get saved. He saw you reach and acknowledged your faith. And in that, He placed it in your life. Now, that faith is what's going to take you here to glory. Faith to faith. You hear me? He said, a measure of faith. What are you doing with your measure of faith? This is the same chapter in chapter 12, verse number 1, that talks about sacrificing. I beseech you, I beg of you, I ask, implore of you, that you therefore, brethren, not sinners, godly people, I beg of you, present your body. Oh, didn't He talk to me? I don't want your money, your house, your car. I'm not interested in nothing you got on this planet. You can be the poorest, sickest, most run-out person and be the holiest, most godly person on the planet if your life is for Jesus. I beseech you, this is what He said, that you present your body a living sacrifice. I don't want you to go kill yourself. I want you to live this life by the measure of faith I gave you. I want you to be saved and live saved. I want you to prove to your neighbor that salvation really does work. I'm trying to be an example to every one of you. That 32 years ago, coming up this month, me and my wife this month, 32 years being married. Walked through more hell, been through more trouble, fussed more, argued more. Now we got raised kids, got grandkids, had been broke, have lost my job at least 5 times. Have had to sit down with my in-laws and my parents, ask them for some money to make sure I can pay my bills because it wasn't working out. We've been sick and in the hospital. We know what it means to have bad reports and good reports. We've been persecuted and church thrown out and hated and everything else. But what is your measure of faith doing for you? 32 years ago, we made up our mind. I am staying the course. I am fighting a good fight of faith, and we are going to finish this race, girl. We're going to finish this race, but not until I got saved, because the first year of our marriage, we were not saved. We were drunk. And we go to church on Sunday and Saturday. We were sucking it down at the bar. Down there going to the church next day, miserable because I knew better. Mom and Daddy told me that's not the way. You can't do that. You can't live 2 lives. It didn't matter if you was in the Methodist church, Episcopal church, Baptist church, Pentecostal church. They all taught the same thing. You can't live 2 lives. I'm asking you for you. God said, I want you. I don't want your money. Look what He said. I want your bodies a living sacrifice, holy. That comes with God. He has to do that for you. Acceptable to God. Not acceptable to your neighbor. God not asking you to figure it out, make sure everybody's happy. He said, acceptable God. Now look, which is the struggle and the strain of your life. He said, folks, that's just where we start. He said, for what you got, for being saved, forgiven, washed clean, this is reasonable. That's just reasonable. Now, these days, that's exceptional, and God, if I got to do any sacrificing, that's your teetotal top of the chain there. Most folks will sacrifice. We don't know what that is. Fast. I was putting my socks on the other day thinking about foot washing. I said, Lord, that's gone. I'm 56, been in 2 of them, maybe 3. Some of the most powerful things I've ever been through was a foot washing. My kids will never know it. My grandkids will never know it because the generation sitting in the pews have absolutely think that's gross and nasty. And what in the world? Putting my feet in. No, what about touching me? One lady told me, she said, what about toenail fungus? I know you're laughing. I wish I could laugh as a pastor. It's insane. So I just text and sent out a text. It wasn't here. It was at another church. I just sent it out. Canceled. We have no clue, Jesus. I know you washed Peter's feet. Jesus, the Son of God, who sits at the right-hand side of the Father, knelt down, girded himself, and put Peter's nasty feet in the water and washed it. Peter said, you ain't doing that. He said, if I don't, you have nothing with me. No relationship. He said, wash me all over. Peter said, I ain't giving this up because I don't understand. That's the Holy Ghost talking. I'm not giving this up because I don't understand. How many people are giving up what they have in God because they don't understand? They just don't know what they're going through. They just can't figure it out. Nobody knows. Nobody knows anymore. It's just a reasonable duty. Now this great man, Paul, Hebrews chapter 11, we're going to move into that measure of faith given to you, and we're going to talk about it a little bit, what just a little bit of faith will do. Just a little bit, what it grows into. For by that faith, elders obtained a good testimony. Because of faith, this is the chapter of faith. Elders became, that's where you get your testimony. Living what you believe. That's how you become people that others look up to and regard, have confidence in. Verse number 3. And by faith we understand, I'm going to take you to the moon and back, that the worlds were framed by the word of God. They will throw you out of the colleges of higher learning if you come in there saying anything about God. This man, Paul, said, I have learned by my ounce of faith I got when I got knocked off my horse off the road of Damascus. That little bit of faith took me to a place where I could believe that there was an eternal God that said the earth is his footstool and the clouds the dust of his feet. He said, by that simple grain of faith, he said, I've learned to believe that God is the creator of the world, so that the things which are seen are not made of the things which are visible. I can't see it, so I can't believe it. I don't think there's a cross, so I'm not going to believe in one. Take the cross out of the church. Yeah. Get rid of the altars. I don't have a problem if a church don't have altars. I've had altars. I've made steps altars. But I can't start there because this is a young church. And if I don't teach them that there's an actual thing called an altar, I'll never get them to these steps. I don't care if you come pray at these steps. Make this a step. I've made the toilet an altar. I've made my bed an altar. I've made the floor an altar. I've made my truck an altar. I've been outside and put my face in the grass and made my yard an altar. I'm just telling you, my God, do you believe what you say you believe? Good God have mercy. I believe the worlds were framed. How does a man get that kind of faith? You got it when you got saved. And that's why others don't have it. Believe the fruit, folks. You'll know a tree by the fruit. Put that in your pocket and live it these days. I'm a Christian. Verse number 32. Same man. Same man, still talking. Until your testimony increases, your faith's never going to increase. Till your faith increases, your testimony increases, your faith's never going to increase. If you're praying yourself out of every lion's den before the daylight comes, God never came in there and got him out of that. He's in there all night long. Them boys stood and said, we're not bound to that idol. He turned it up hotter. You said, well, God will come. He did, in the fire. They threw him in there. It was so hot, it consumed everything around him. It killed the men that threw him in. They threw him in there, and that old king looked in there. You know the story. And he said, look into what in the world? I put 3 in, I see 4. If you don't have that in your faith, you're not going to make it until Jesus comes. If your faith doesn't tell you, I'm never going to leave you. Do you not believe me? Did I not prove it to you in the scriptures? Have I not shown you that I can shut the mouth of a lion? I have no problem shutting the mouth of your neighbor or your enemy. I have no problem. I shut the mouth of things that eat for a living. I mean, a lion, baby, that thing eats for a living. You hear me? If he can shut the lion's mouth, he can shut my enemy's mouth. He said, I know there's a place that I can make even your enemies be at peace with you. I can come down and do something for your life that no man can do, no psychologist can do. It's in your faith that you have. This chapter is a chapter of faith. What more shall I say? He said, time would fail me to tell of you of Gideon and Barak, Samson and Jephthah, and Mike and Josh and Keith and Debbie. You don't put yourself there, you're not walking. Gideon had to trust God. Pastor, you have had to trust God. Are you serious? You have to put a fleece out? I hate a fleece. Why? Oh my God, if I hurt him and it's not wet or not dry, what am I going to do? Anyway. Time not tell of Barak, Samson, Jephthah, also of David, Samuel, that great prophet, who through faith, subdued kingdoms. They worked righteousness and obtained promises. Oh, if you don't have faith, I doubt you're going to get what you're waiting on. By faith, they obtained their promise. They stopped the mouths of lions. One man believed, I'm in the will of God. But they're going to kill you, not today. Stop them, quench the violence of fire, escape the edge of the sword. Out of weakness were made strong, became valiant in battle, turned the fight of the armies of the aliens. Women received their dead raised to life again. You say, well, you're kidding me. It's in you, sister. It's in you, brother. It comes that same seed of faith. This is the author of that faith, Jesus, and said, these men didn't even have what you have. They come before I died. Others were tortured, not accepting deliverance. We'll live in this torment because it's God's will. By faith, they said, we will not accept deliverance if it means I have to give up my beliefs. That they might obtain a better resurrection. They knew there was a day coming. If you need something to motivate you for tomorrow, you better get your eyes on heaven and know there's a hell behind you that you missed, and there's a heaven ahead of you. And that ought to put a joy on your face, and you ought to say, my God, it's a happy day. This is the day the Lord hath made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Until your testimony increases, your faith is not going to be what you want it to be. You've got to overcome something. Now, all of you fighters out there, I came tonight to salute you. God, I look out here. I see some fighters among us. I salute you as your friend and pastor. To all of you keepers who have fought to keep what you've had over the years and tried to keep everything you had, I salute you. I say, well done, good job. And to all of the finishers, I salute you for keeping going when you didn't feel like it, pressing on when there was nothing to press on for encouraging yourself like David did when there was nobody to encourage you. 2 Timothy chapter 4, this same man looking back at Timothy told him these things. He said, now I charge you. I charge. He's dying. He said, I charge you. I looked that word up. It meant to raise your right hand. Paul, laying on his deathbed, said, Timothy, raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear. God, I get tired of living in this lazy, messed up world. Calls itself godly. I charge you, therefore, before God and the Lord Jesus Christ, who, there he is again, who will judge the living and the dead at his appearing in his kingdom. Preach the word. You hear me, young preacher? You hear me, young teachers? You hear me, young people, ladies and men fighting this fight? Stay with the word. It's going to bring you conflict. Preach that word with an exclamation mark. Be ready in season and out of season. Well, I need 3 hours. Not if you got your faith, you don't. I'd rather have time, but sometimes I don't have no time. He said, season, out of season, convince, rebuke, sweat, lose your voice. Rebuke and exhort with all long suffering and teaching. Good God, have mercy. Stir them up. Don't let them sit there and sleep. Wake them up. Stir them up. Hey, get up from there. Wake up from there. Rebuke them. What are you doing sitting there like that? You know better than that. What are you doing? Exhort them, he said. Tell them the words of truth. My God, get up. This thing's worth fighting for. I mean, he told Timothy, raise your right hand and say, I do solemnly swear, I charge you not to drop this ball before Jesus comes. Now, I'm leaving. With the same faith. You're going to have trouble for it, buddy, for time will come when they will not endure your preaching according to their own desires. I live it every day because they have itching ears. They hate good preaching. They hate people that preach. Got to find the next best thing. Got to find somebody to say what I want them to say. Looking around trying to find some preacher hadn't prayed in 10 days. Got to find somebody on the television that'll say it a little easier than the pastor. He's just easier to listen to than one. Well, I'm sorry, folks. You're called to a local church. I'm just telling you, God Almighty never meant that computer, that TV to take the place of you being in the house of God or listening to a pastor. I've often said this, if I'm not the one, my God, go find the one, because you're going to stand before Jesus. You're going to stand there. But he told him, he said, who won't endure sound doctrine, but according to their own self, because they have itching ears, they will heap to themselves teachers. They'll turn their ears away from the truth. They turn their ears away from the truth. Don't talk to me. Don't push me. Quit rebuking me. Quit correcting me. Quit dealing with me. Stop sucking that like that with me. Treat me nice. Be real sweet to me now. I don't know how to rebuke sweetly. My daddy rebuked me, sound like a tiger every time he did. What are you doing, boy? You made an F on your report card. Are you kidding me? Your mama's a math professor at the college and you made an F in math? It's okay this day. Mikey, you okay, buddy? No, don't talk back to Daddy. They'll turn their ears away from truth and be turned aside to a fable. That which is without faith. But you, this is the sentence I wanted you to see in all of these 5 verses. But you watching all things. Listen to me. I got written down on my notes. Man of God said this to me years ago. He preached a message and he said, others can, but you cannot. You're watching all things. In all things, you watch this thing. You keep your eyes open. Don't you ever go to sleep at the helm. Don't you ever let problems be your problem. Boy, don't you ever let this thing knock you out. Don't you ever quit, Timothy. Don't you ever mess up and get out. Don't you ever let the devil talk you out of what you believe. Timothy, I charge you. You endure affliction. Do the work of an evangelist, and fulfill your ministry, boy. He should do everything I tell you. 2 Corinthians 11:24. Pastor's life's hard. Don't lie to me. Life's hard. He said, my life consists of what I'm about to tell you. From the Jews, 5 times I've received 40 stripes minus 1. From the Jews. They beat me. He was a Jew. He was a Pharisee. These are the folks that knew him. What does your resume say? You too have had some things happen. You too have seen the goodness of the Lord. You too have lived through death itself around you. 2 Corinthians 11:23 and 30. Now look at what he said. And I got it in the NLT so we can really say some words we didn't get in the New King James. Are they servants of Christ? Question mark. I know I sound like a madman. I told my staff that. I know walking with me sometimes looks like crazy. He said, I know I sound like a madman, but I have served him far more. I have worked harder, been put in prison more often, been whipped times without number. I've faced death again and again. 5 different times the Jewish leaders gave me 39 lashes. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. Once spent a whole night and a day adrift at sea. Have I traveled on many long journeys? I've faced dangers from rivers and from robbers. I've faced dangers from my own people, from the Jews as well as the Gentiles. I've faced dangers in cities and in deserts and in the sea. I've faced dangers from men who claim to be believers and are not. I've had to work harder and longer, endure more sleepless nights. I've been hungry and thirsty, often gone without food. I've shivered in the cold without even have anything to cover myself to warm me. I'm beside all of this. I've daily burdened my concern for all the churches. In other words, that had nothing to do with what I was called to do. Whether I was in prison, cold, beaten, hungry, or thirsty, I never gave up on what I was called to do. I preached and prayed for the churches that were over me. I don't care if I was left for dead or not. If the ship went down, that's all right. What's that got to do with my calling? Nothing's got to come up on my calling. He said, who was weak without feelings? That weakness. Who is weak without my feeling? That's weakness. Who is led astray? I do not burn with anger. If I must boast, I wonder rather boast about the things that are shown how weak I am. He said, Timothy, I said all that to say, I just want you to know that's not why I do what I do. I don't do this because I've had to go through that. I'm going through that because this is who I am. On Highway 20, intersection of Highway 20 and 79. The Lord spoke that to me probably 20-something years ago. This will be easier, Mike, when you stop trying to do something and become something. Because everything you've ever tried to do, you wear out at. But when you become something, nothing ever tires you. Mike, are you a Christian? Yeah, I started out this thing missing hell. That's where I started out. I started out needing to get out of that drinking on Saturday night, church on Sunday. 2 Timothy chapter 4, where we started when Paul was telling this young man Timothy, he ended, he said, I want to tell you something. Listen to me. He's talking now and back to his last breath. He ain't even talking about that stuff no more. He doesn't talk about the road to Damascus. He doesn't talk about the Jews beating him, somebody killing him. He don't talk about none of that. He didn't even bring up being shipwrecked. His maturity of his faith had moved him away from all of that. He didn't even say that at his last breath. He said, I'm ready to be poured out. A drink offering, the time of my departure is hand. And he cried out, he said, I fought a good fight. Now, if you need my resume, we can go back over it, he said. But I don't intend to give it to you on this end because that ain't why I'm here. I'm not here. I fought a good fight. I didn't quit because others did. I didn't let life make me bitter. I'm not mad at anybody, he said. Didn't blame the Gentiles or the Jews. Not mad at nobody. He said, I did it all because I love Jesus. Timothy, I've kept the faith. I've kept this faith that was given to me. An ounce of it's grown into a lifetime. A measure of faith has grown into an absolute tree. I've kept it. I didn't let a lure of an easier life persuade me to give in on what I believed. I said I didn't let the lure of an easier life persuade me to give in on what I believe. I didn't let the mysteries of God throw me. I learned that from an old man of God died when his daughter died on the mission field. He is called to the mission field, had his only daughter he had. He crossed over that country into that other country to be a missionary. She got bit and got malaria or something like that, and she died. He come back on the States to get that they have to come back and get refreshed and get their finances to go on. And God told him, he said, are you going to let the mysteries of God throw you? He said, why did you take my only daughter? Why in God's name did you take my only daughter? He said, God spoke back to him and said, don't let the mysteries throw you. I kept the faith when I didn't feel good, when I felt like quitting, leaving, giving up and letting up. I just kept believing God. That's what he told Timothy. He said, I finished my course. I've accomplished everything I feel I had to. With no reservations, I'd do it again. I did it, Timothy. I finished. I've fought and I've kept, and now I've finished. Now, he said, finally, store for me's a crown. Church, see, the Lord just wants us to know I see you. I titled it Fighters, Keepers, and Finishers, because that's who I believe you are. I just happen to have the microphone. I'm sure you have your own stories. I'm sure you've gone through some things. I think about our kids and things that they go through. Young people get to start in their testimony. But I'm going to tell you something. If your testimony doesn't grow, your faith's dead. You still telling me something happened 35 years ago, or did it happen 35 minutes ago? You believe what you believed 35 years ago, or somebody talk you out of it? I mean, I live in a world, they try and talk me out of what I believe. Slow down, settle down. I thought, my God, are you kidding me? You don't have to pray anymore. It's okay if we drink a little bit. I mean, we do anything we want to do anymore. It's okay. I just can't, folks. when I got a measure of faith and got knocked off of that horse and got saved, baby. I got a measure of faith. And now that faith is not about missing hell. Hear me and I'll let you go. It's not about missing hell anymore. It's about I'm so in love with Jesus. And if you ask me to stand on my head tonight until the morning time, I do it. If I'm the only one that has to get up and go to church, I'm going. I love Jesus.
Thank you for listening, and don't forget to follow us on YouTube and Facebook so you don't miss out on any future content from the Crossing Worship Center. Thank you again, and God bless.